It is time to stake our claim on our favorite fantasy players for 2025. We reveal our ride or die wide receivers and quarterbacks on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNNFL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, we are so close to the season, and we're so close to fantasy draft season. So it's our time to finally say there's certain players that we are riding or dying with this year. You know, we're just staking our claim, putting our reputation on the line for these guys because we are so certain they are going to be such a good value in the draft. So today we're going to focus on wide receivers and quarterbacks. Tomorrow we will reveal our running backs and our tight end. But today we're going to each give you our favorite 2 wide receivers that we are riding or dying with this year and 1 quarterback. So let's just get this started, Vinny. Who is your number 1 ride or die wide receiver for 2025?
Yeah, I'm going with a oldie but a goodie. It's Davante Adams. Now, he's going as wide receiver 17. This is unusual territory for him. He's not used to being this low. And even last year when we were kind of, is this maybe the end? Is it going to slow down? What's going to go on with the Raiders? He translates that into wide receiver 10 production, tied, by the way, with some heavy hitters right there with Mike Evans and CeeDee Lamb. So that's the kind of production you're getting. They were wide receiver 10. Now, there's no reason to think he should be 7 spots lower this year. Now, he got it done with some questionable quarterback play with the Raiders. Then he went and got his old friend Aaron Rodgers. Well, if you can have an old quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, I think an old quarterback like Matthew Stafford is ideal for him. And look, we're going to take Sean McVay's word that Matthew Stafford's going to be out there. But Davante Adams just produces. He's going to get out there and do what you want. And look, he's a very good touchdown scorer. And I think they missed that element a little bit in this Rams offense. You figure him and Puka Nacua are going to dominate targets. They're going to figure out tight end a little bit. We'll see. There'll be a big drop-off to Tutu Atwell and some of these other receivers that they use. But you can expect Nacua and Adams to gobble up targets. And the Rams, by the way, have 205 vacated targets at wide receiver. So this is an opportunity here. And that's with Nacua still on the team. So basically, Adams is going to eat a lot of targets up for Stafford. Look, if it pivots to the guy that didn't quite work out with him, Jimmy Garoppolo in Las Vegas, I'm still okay with it because he is just a great target who gets open all over the field. You still have to account for Nacua. The fact that Adams is operating behind Nacua, like he's always been the guy, I think they're equal number ones to me. And Nacua is going very high. We know the top 6 in many drafts, but it shouldn't be a tumble all the way to wide receiver in 17, especially the production. Again, I've looked at it all season long that Nacua and Adams are kind of a slightly cheaper version of what you can get with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I think if you also put in Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams, these are all explosive combos that you can get all over the board. But wide receiver 17 is just too low for me, given that there's a very good chance Adams returns to double-digit touchdown status this year. And if that's the case, then you're cooking because he's going to see the targets all over the field. He's actually gotten better, I think, as he's gotten older in terms of stretching the field. So I love it. Again, however you break it down, Adams, I think, has one more big season left in him. Look, he's a Hall of Famer, and he's kind of like Evans, where you just count on it every year, and he's going to produce one more year at least.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I'm maybe not as high as you are, but I still do have him as my wide receiver 15, and I won't be surprised if he beats that as well. So I do think his cost is very great. And as long as Matthew Stafford stays healthy, like easy 8 to 12 receiving touchdowns, right? Like Adams is a receiving touchdown monster. He's going to be that guy for this team. And, you know, you already brought it up, but even last year where he disappointed, I'm using in quotes, he's still the wide receiver 10 in average. So yeah, he still has it in him. And I like that pick by you. Now, this is a guy, my guy. that I've been talking up all off season long. So I'm sorry if you're sick of hearing about him, but I have to stake my claim on him. He's my ride or die. It's Ricky Pearsall, second year wide receiver for the 49ers, still going wide receiver 42 in average draft position. He has increasing consensus rankings, but still, not increasing too much in those average drafts right now. So you'd still get him for a great cost. And I don't even care if his cost goes up more because I have him as my wide receiver 27. I personally think that's probably too low. Last year, it's hard to decipher, right? Like what he's going to be in the NFL. He started his career off really brutally by getting shot in the chest and missing the first part of his rookie season because he got shot in the chest like a week before the regular season started. But then he started to come along towards the end of the year. And over the last 2 weeks of the season, he had 210 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns over those 2 games. He had just 3 games last year with at least 6 targets, averaged 18.6 fantasy points per game in those 3 games, over 15 fantasy points in all 3 games. And I just truly believe this team needs him to step up as their wide receiver 1. There's a reason they took him in the first round. Even if you think they reached, they clearly didn't think they did. And Brandon Ayuk is saying right now that maybe he's back in week 6. I'm sure it'll be even longer than that, but week 6 is still a long time. Deebo Samuel's gone. Demarcus Robinson's the only guy they added, and he's expected to miss the first 3 games of the season. Also, we're just not worried about him taking too many targets. And Juwan Jennings is a fine wide receiver, already injured though, and really should be a wide receiver 2 or 3 on a team. He's just not, he should not be any team's wide receiver 1. If this 49ers offense is truly going to be good this year, Ricky Pearsall has to step up as that guy. And every single year since 2020, the 49ers have had a top 24 wide receiver in fantasy. Juwan Jennings last year at wide receiver 24, which I do think is the floor because, again, I don't think Juwan Jennings is special. I think he's just a guy. I say this all the time on my 49ers podcast. The fans don't like that. I'm sorry. I think he is. Deebo Samuel and Ayuk were both top 14 wide receivers in 2023. Ayuk wide receiver 18 in 2022. Deebo, the wide receiver 2 in 2021. Ayuk was the wide receiver 17 in average points per game in 2020. And then the worst season so far that I can go back from is 2019 when Deebo Samuel was the wide receiver 29, the best on the team. But every year over the last 5 years, we have seen a very productive wide receiver come out of this offense. Wide receiver 42 is way too low for him. He will be on every single one of my teams, even if I'm fine with him getting as high up as wide receiver 30. I don't think there's any difference between him or, a Marvin Harrison Jr. or Xavier Worthy or a George Pickens that we're expecting that can maybe break out. I think he has the same opportunity, maybe even better with the offense that he's in and the vacated targets that he's stepping into.
Yeah, the only question I had, Michelle, was he going to be incorporated into one of Brock Purdy, my guys, right? George Kittle has been that for a while. Brandon Ayuk was when he's on the field. Juwan Jennings out of necessity. And he's an out of necessity receiver, right? You put him in a lot of places he can produce. And by the way, he's also a guy that they like in the slot. So if they have to spread the field, they have to use Ricky Pearsall in the kind of that alpha role right now that is vacated by both Samuel not being there and Ayuk also being hurt. So I also like him a lot. Like the question is, how do I want to approach taking him, right? And this is a question for everybody out there as well. Now you like him. He's going right now around wide receiver 37, 38. He's actually ascending. If you look at the rankings, the arrow is pointing up for Pearsall because of the same things that Michelle's seen and I've seen going on, and everyone's kind of coming around to that. Now, here's how I feel about these type of players. If I really want this player, and it's different from Adams, right? I have to be in a certain range to take him. But here you can basically be in any spot to take him. How aggressive, Michelle, do you want to be taking a guy like this ahead of his ADP? I know we're all trying to wait for ADP and value, but if you like someone this much, I mean, don't you agree you just have to pull the trigger and do it when you want this player so no one else gets him?
Absolutely. I'm not waiting to where his normal draft position is. I mean, these are the guys going ahead of him right now. Chris Olave, Rome Odunze, Jordan Addison, Deebo Samuel, Stephon Diggs, Chris Godwin, Jacoby Myers, and Cooper Kupp all have a higher ADP than Ricky Pearsall right now. And I would prefer Pearsall easily over any single one of those guys. So I am fine reaching on him and taking him earlier to make sure he's on my roster.
Yeah, that's a key thing. Is like if you like somebody, I know we can play this ADP waiting game. Like, okay, if it's someone in the 200s and you're picking at 100, maybe you're not reaching that far. But if you're going round 7 or somewhere and you like a guy and you like him in a particular position, say in Pearsall's case is a wide receiver 2, right? If you like him more as a wide receiver 2 than 3, then take him somewhere in that range, right? Don't roll the dice because someone else, it just takes one other person in your league to like Pearsall as much as you,
Yep.
and he's gone. So that's a good thing to look out for. So it's a little bit easier when your guys are a little bit out of range where I got to get a good pick here to make sure I get Adams. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see how this plays out, see if I can get Adams, but I'm pretty sure you'll get Pearsall in most leagues. So we'll get into 2 more wide receivers we really like here, and potentially a turn if you're at the end of a certain round that you can get these 2 guys back to back. We'll get into that after a quick sponsor break. All right, circle your calendars for August 26th. It's officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing the long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So take your flyer on an MVP race. Do you like someone in a dark horse? Maybe you like Brock Purdy. Maybe this is the year with his receivers and all that and lifting the 49ers here after he got his big contract. And maybe you like a dark horse out there for your champion. Maybe this is the year that the Ravens break through. Or you can parlay a surprise division winner. Is it Jacksonville? Dare we say Tennessee? These are some dark horses that you can potentially go for and parlay those. So visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right, Michelle, it is time to reveal our next wide receiver that we're, quote, banging the table for. We don't want to do it too loud during our draft so everyone doesn't realize when we're doing this, but give us your second wide receiver that you're not going to let your drafts go without taking.
Yeah, I did not expect to ever be to ever have this guy as a my dude that I am riding or dying with, but I'm going to go with Jerry Jeudy, and it's because he's not getting too hyped this offseason. His cost is staying super low, and it's at wide receiver 33 after he was a wide receiver 15 overall last year. Now, I know his average scoring wasn't that high, but I mean, his second half of the season was amazing. From weeks 11 through 18, he was averaging 101 receiving yards per game and 16.2 fantasy points per game. That was 8th among wide receivers in fantasy points per game during that span. And Winston, I mean, did play most of those, but Winston didn't play from week 16 through 18. So 3 weeks in that span, Jerry Jeudy was with Dorian Thompson-Robinson or Bailey Zappi, which kind of even brought these numbers down. But he was a top 22 wide receiver in 6 of the final 8 weeks, and all 6 weeks with Jameis Winston. In the 7 games that Jameis Winston started, he averaged 17 fantasy points per game in half PPR. Only Jamar Chase averaged more than that last year. And I get Winston's not there anymore, but the Browns just announced that Joe Flacco is going to be their starting quarterback. And if there's any 2 quarterbacks alike in this league, it's Joe Flacco and Jameis Winston. They don't care about interceptions. They're going to throw it up, right? And Joe Flacco knows how to target his number 1 guy. Right now, the Browns wide receiver room is just a mishmash of guys, right? Like, they've tried to add Deontay Johnson. We'll see if he can come back. Cedric Tillman, I like his talent, but he's a fine wide receiver too. They're signed Isaiah Bond after going undrafted. We'll see if he can make a splash. But right now, Jamari Thrash is expected to be the 3rd wide receiver started in this offense, right? Jerry Jeudy is going to get so many targets. Elijah Moore's gone. And you might say, who cares? He had 102 targets last year. He was 2nd in this team of targets. He's just gone. Amari Cooper left in the middle of last season. Jordan Atkins had the 4th most targets on this team. He's gone. Like, so many targets to be had. And Jerry Jeudy was already seeing so many of last year. I don't maybe expect those targets to increase from what we saw from the second half of the season, but I also don't really expect them to decline all that much because they need him, especially with that brutal schedule that they have, especially to start the year. they have so many hard teams they're playing. They're going to have to throw a ton. Plus, like, we don't know what's going on with Quinshon Judkins. They might not even have a run game at all. So I really like Jeudy this year. I think he's going to well outplay wide receiver 33 cost. And it might not be pretty. Like, you might not want to watch these games, but I do think at the end of the year, you're going to be really happy you took Jeudy.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the profile of Jeudy, he's really came into the league like Amari Cooper, and we know Amari Cooper was with the Browns, and you have Flacco here. And Flacco's really going to pepper him and David Njoku a lot with targets, and they have to. Like, the Browns' offense could be just sputtering, right, and not be on the field a ton. But when they're on the field, they're going to throw to these two guys rather consistently. Flacco knows where the bread needs to be buttered. I mean, there's nobody else there they can really trust. You can't really stretch the field in this offense. This offensive line is not what it once was. Flacco's going to get the ball out of his hands. You're still trying to figure out, what can I get in the check down game between Quinshon Judkins if they want to use him? That wasn't his strength at Ohio State. Then is Dylan Sampson going to see any action in that sense? I mean, so you're going to see a lot of those short to intermediate targets come to Jeudy and Njoku on this team. So I like that pick. I don't know if I'm going to go nuts trying to get Jared Jeudy. I don't know if I'm going to walk away saddened in my draft if I don't get him. But if he's there as a value, I'm definitely going to go after him as a wide receiver 3. But he's definitely being kind of undervalued in terms of that production. Again, nothing juicy. Sometimes we just want somebody that we can potentially start every week there. So my guy I'm hoping is a little juicier here for maybe a wide receiver 15, somewhere there. He's now the wide receiver 24 on the board. He's Tetairoa McMillan. Hopefully his little banged up issue won't last too much here. The Panthers have 83 vacated targets. It's actually not as many as you might think on this team, but still, it's enough. When a guy comes in here and says, okay, I'm going to be the alpha. He was drafted to be the alpha. When you use that high of a pick and just forget about how atrocious your defense was, and you say, I need to get a go-to guy. And I think all the parallels to Mike Evans are completely reasonable here because it's the same type of receiver. It's like a big dude who can stretch the field, make some big plays, has some speed, and also is a great target in the red zone. We saw that connection immediately heat up in the first preseason game against the Browns. I mean, the downfield connection was there, just missed a touchdown, but he was looked at by Bryce Young quite a bit. And look, Dave Canales is a smart offensive player. He's going to see a little bit of DK Metcalf, who they had in Seattle, and a little bit of Mike Evans. He's going to see that profile and say, we need to pepper McMillan. Adam Thielen is better off as a slot complement, a big slot. And Jalen Coker may not be bad as a number 2 if we really need to go in that direction. But McMillan needs to be the alpha to make this whole offense cook and kind of break out the way we want. Bryce Young looks a lot better. So I'm all over Tetairoa McMillan. And again, wide receiver 24. This is probably pretty low given how high he was taken as a wide receiver. I mean, a lot of these other guys, I mean, we hyped Marvin Harrison Jr. so much at a similar draft pick last year. It didn't work out. I think this year it does pan out.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tetairoa McMillan. I mean, the size, he has it all to be that true wide receiver 1. And if Bryce Young can fully take that next step forward with Dave Canales, there's no reason he's not a top 24 guy. Like, I could totally see the route of him being the next Brian Thomas Jr., where he is going too late in drafts for whatever reason because we're worried about the offense. And it doesn't really matter when you're super, super talented. So love that pick by you. We are going to move on to quarterbacks now. We're going to give you our ride or die quarterback for each of us right after a quick break. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get the first pitch, and they got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Gametime is the official ticketing partner app of the Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming MLB game. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, it's time to put our reputation on the line for a quarterback. Vinny, who are you riding or dying with at quarterback for the 2025 season?
Well, remember last year I was all about Jaden Daniels, and I was kind of fading Caleb Williams. But let's do this the other way. I'm not fading Jaden Daniels by any way or any stretch of the imagination. But QB 15, I do not understand this for Caleb Williams. I thought he was going to keep going up. I thought the hype train was going to pull out of the station, and that's it. You can't get him unless you expend a very high pick on him. But he's going the opposite direction. This is after we have evidence of him playing also and executing at a high level. I think people just forget. They just look at one disappointing year, but you got to blow up that year. I mean, it was a dysfunctional Bears team. I mean, they didn't know if their guys were committed to the offense, and then I don't think their scheme worked. They had a change in the middle of the year. It was just an absolute mess. Ben Johnson has looked sharp ever since he took that job and did his press conference, spoke at the combine. This guy has seemed put together offensively and as a leader for this team right when he took over. So when that happens, you get inspired play by your best players. And Caleb Williams, again, I think he maybe just have been kind of just blah about what they were doing last year and wasn't engaged with the kind of offensive execution. But you've got to be excited when they give you Colston Loveland in the first round. They give you Luther Burden in the second. They're excited about Roma Dunze. They go and invest in their offensive line. So all those things, I mean, there's just too much pointing in the right direction in this environment for Caleb Williams not to be successful. And look, we're not quite sure how the pecking order will play. We talked about this with all their weapons, but we know there are weapons, and we saw that last year. If you start looking at it last year with Jaden Daniels, okay, you start with Terry McLaurin, okay, and then we have not awesome players, but Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler, some veterans there in that offense, some gaggle of receivers. So that's what you basically have this year supporting the scheme as well for Caleb Williams. So again, QB 15, like, one QB league, I might just wait this out, Michelle, or jump on him a few spots later. Like, I don't get it. I mean, Justin Fields was a value I thought before, but now I think Caleb Williams is becoming the better value here overall, because now Justin Fields has crept into 10, 11, 12 on the draft board, where 15 is really good for Caleb Williams. And again, I don't want the Kyler Murray, Bo Nix kind of tier. I don't want to touch that. I'm going to wait for this for Caleb Williams. So again, we've been banging the table a lot for Caleb Williams. Let's just confirm it. This is putting pen to paper, putting it in ink or blood or whatever you want. But Caleb Williams officially ride or die player for me. And again, I think you might have your stamp of approval on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, he could have easily been my ride or die player, but there was another guy that I liked very similarly. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give Vinny Caleb Williams. But I do think for the podcast, Caleb Williams is our ride or die this year. We're both super excited about him. We both have him ranked well ahead of ADP. And I'll say I'm in my first draft this year. It's a slow draft. And I took Baker Mayfield in the 6th round. And Caleb Williams is still sitting there in the 11th round. And I'm really regretting that decision that I already took a quarterback. Because if I knew I could get Caleb Williams in the 11th round, I would have jumped on that easily. Now, my ride or die quarterback is Justin Herbert. He's going as a quarterback 14 right now in average draft position. The last couple of years that have been highly disappointing, he beat that cost at quarterback 11 last year, quarterback 12 in 2023. You're not going to be happy if you draft him and he does that again, right? I'm not trying to say that, but we have seen excellent seasons from him. In 2021, he was the quarterback 2 overall. And I think he can get back to being a top 5 guy at a very low cost, because last year we started to see it click with him after a really, really slow start where he only had 6 passing touchdowns over the first 7 weeks of the season. It started to click with the Jim Harbaugh offense and that system. And he started, really breaking out from weeks 8 through 18. He was averaging nearly 20 points per game. He would have, been on pace to be the quarterback 7, right ahead of Jared Goff and right behind Jaden Daniels with that pace. And I think the addition of Keenan Allen is being overlooked. I mean, we're only 1 season removed from Keenan Allen leading the NFL in receptions per game and having the 4th most receiving yards per game. He had over 1,200 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns in the 13 games he played in 2023 with the Chargers. Now, with Ladd McConkey there, I'm not saying he's going to get that same workload, but I do think adding Keenan Allen back into this offense with Ladd McConkey and adding Trey Harris and adding Keandre Lambert-Smith, who's looked nothing but excellent as a rookie in preseason so far. Like, he has all the weapons around him to succeed. I think adding a better pass-catching running back, whether it's Omarion Hampton or Najee Harris out there, it's way better pass-catching back than J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards. He just didn't really have that guy last year to lean on. I think that helps him too, get those extra gimme yards or maybe get a couple extra touchdowns. But I'm really excited to see what Justin Herbert can do in the second year of this offense with all of these playmakers around him. Hopefully, he keeps utilizing his legs. 306 rushing yards last year. That was a career high. Let's get him a couple more rushing touchdowns. It's really just the passing touchdowns that have been low the last couple of years. We saw he can throw a ton of touchdowns in his career. He had 38 in 2021. It can get back up there. So I'm really, really excited about Justin Herbert, and I think he's a top 8 guy this year, going way, way too low in drafts.
Yeah, Justin Herbert has been a tough guy to really trust in recent seasons. I mean, he had the great rookie spike. We didn't expect it. Then the Tyrod Taylor thing happened with a lung, and that's it. And it was all over. Justin Herbert was in. He looked really good all season long. But Keenan Allen, you make a great point there. I think there's a couple things that I'm trying to wrap my head around him to really buy into the way that you like him. And it's going in that direction for me a little bit more. I think my concern is the pass volume, right? Will he pass enough? The other question is, how much does not having his left tackle, Rashawn Slater, hurt? I mean, that's just a couple of things. But when you look at the positives, you look at Keenan Allen, and I think you made a good point about the touchdowns. This Chargers offense, we expect it to move the ball well, and sometimes, look, you'll take it if he's going to throw for 3,500 to 4,000 yards. You'll take it if it comes with 30-plus touchdowns. Mm-hmm. As Michelle said, you could also look at more rushing yards. If he bumps that rushing total to 503 on the ground or something like that, then you're in really good shape. So, again, I'm just hoping for this Chargers offense to just be very productive and therefore score more touchdowns to go around, more yards to go around. And I think just having Keenan Allen, that familiarity with Ladd McConkey is going to be huge. He's got some big play receivers. And it's also the second year. This offense is complicated for Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, right? It's going to take some time. Look, and also get that playoff version of Justin Herbert. It was a terrible game that he had in the playoffs. There's no doubt about it. Get that out of your head. It's time for him to produce, again, more like his rookie season. I don't know if we'll get all the way up there to like where he was, but if he's in the top 10, he's already a good value for you.
Yeah, he really, really is. I love all of our picks, honestly, today. It does seem like we're very aligned with our ideas, which is always a good thing when it comes to feeling confident about drafting these guys if we both agree. But that will be it for today's episode. We will be giving our ride or die guys at the running back and tight end position tomorrow, so don't miss that. We hope you all have a great night. Hit that subscribe button, leave a good review so that we can be here every day to help you win your fantasy football leagues. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye, y'all.